Little Red Riding Hood. Once upon a time, in a quiet little village by the edge of a great forest, there lived a sweet and kind-hearted girl. She was so beloved by everyone, but no one adored her more than her grandmother. One day, the grandmother sewed a beautiful red cloak with a hood for the little girl. The girl loved it so much that she wore it every day, and soon everyone started calling her Little Red Riding Hood. One morning, Little Red Riding Hood's mother called her and said, "My dear, your grandmother is not feeling well. I have baked some fresh bread and made some delicious soup for her. Please take this basket to her cottage in the woods, but remember, do not stray from the path and do not talk to strangers." Excited to visit her grandmother, Little Red Riding Hood put on her red cloak, took the basket, and set off into the deep forest. The trees stood tall, their leaves whispering in the wind, and the birds sang cheerful songs. As she walked, picking flowers along the way, a cunning wolf noticed her. The wolf, hungry and always looking for an easy meal, saw an opportunity. He approached Little Red Riding Hood with a sly smile and asked in a friendly voice, "Good morning, little girl. Where are you going on this lovely day?" Remembering her mother's warning, she hesitated but then replied, "I'm going to visit my grandmother, who lives in the cottage at the end of the path. She's not feeling well, and I'm bringing her some food." The wolf's sharp mind quickly devised a wicked plan. He smiled and said, "What a kind little girl you are. But tell me, where exactly does your grandmother live?" "Oh, it's not far," said Little Red Riding Hood. "Just at the end of this path, past the big oak tree." The wolf grinned, his eyes gleaming with mischief. "What a beautiful day for a walk. Why don't you take your time and pick some more flowers for your dear grandmother?" Little Red Riding Hood thought it was a lovely idea and wandered off the path to gather more flowers. As soon as she was distracted, the wolf darted down the path, running as fast as he could towards the grandmother's house. The wolf reached the grandmother's cottage and knocked on the door. "Who is it?" came the weak voice of the old woman. Hiding his deep voice, the wolf answered sweetly, "It's me, Little Red Riding Hood. I have brought you some food, dear grandmother." Delighted, the grandmother unlocked the door, but the moment she did, the wolf leaped inside and pounced on her. Before she could cry for help, he swallowed her whole in one big gulp. Then, feeling full but not satisfied, he came up with another devious plan. He put on the grandmother's nightgown, wore her bonnet, and slipped into bed. He pulled the blanket up to his chin and waited patiently for Little Red Riding Hood to arrive. A little while later, Little Red Riding Hood finally arrived at the cottage. She noticed that the door was slightly open, which was unusual. Stepping inside, she felt a strange chill in the air. "Grandmother, I'm here," she called from the bed. The wolf replied in a frail voice, "Come in, my dear." Little Red Riding Hood approached the bed but felt something was not quite right. Her grandmother looked different. "Oh, grandmother, what big ears you have," she said. "The better to hear you with, my dear," replied the wolf. "Oh, grandmother, what big eyes you have," she exclaimed. "The better to see you with, my dear," said the wolf. "Oh, grandmother, what big hands you have. The better to hug you with, my dear," the wolf said, grinning wickedly. Finally, Little Red Riding Hood noticed the wolf's sharp teeth. "Oh, grandmother, what big teeth you have." With a menacing growl, the wolf sprang from the bed and roared, "The better to eat you with, my dear." Just as the wolf lunged at Little Red Riding Hood, a strong and brave woodsman, who had been passing by, heard the commotion. Bursting into the cottage with his axe, He saw the wolf and immediately understood what had happened. With one swift strike, he scared the wolf away. The frightened wolf tried to flee, but the woodsman caught him and freed the grandmother from his belly, as she was still miraculously unharmed. Little Red Riding Hood and her grandmother were overjoyed and thanked the woodsman for his bravery. After that terrifying experience, Little Red Riding Hood promised never to stray from the path or talk to strangers again. She hugged her grandmother tightly, happy that they were both safe. From that day on, she always remembered her mother's advice and became wiser. The wolf, on the other hand, learned that cleverness alone was not enough sometimes. Kindness and wisdom were stronger than cunning. And so, Little Red Riding Hood, her grandmother, and the kind woodsman lived happily ever after. The end.